Alright, so today's challenge is going to be how much tilling can I get done in an hour before I shower, not trying to rhyme y'all, and go to martial arts.
Oh boy, was I so excited to have this tiller. It was a loan from my homie and barber, and it was going to cut down my time pulling out all this lawn exponentially. And then it stopped on me. Like, for real? You really going to stop on me? Oh man. Yep, I was not in a fever dream. This tiller definitely was rolling for about a good 8 minutes, and then it stopped on me. I tried to tinker with it as much as I could, but I'm no mechanic, y'all. So I felt like the longer I tinkered with it, the more I was taking away crucial time that I could be using to actually get some work done. So I do want to give you this tip. If you have people who are being helpful, loaning you tools, loaning you things, one, make sure that they actually work, because somebody could be doing you a solid and then doing you a big disservice, actually, because the time that it took to kind of regroup, figure out if I was going to rent a tiller, I did not do that. I grabbed a rake. I decided, you know what can you do, Voice Monet? You can start raking up what grass this tiller did loosen and start throwing that in the raised garden bed that you're trying to make. And I also used this time while I was raking. I noticed this throughout the build. When I felt like I needed to solve a problem and I didn't want to stress about it, I chose activities, particularly repetitive activities, that allow me to just calm my mind and think through the situation instead of making the situation worse. So don't always stress, y'all. Like, the answers will come. Just be patient. So I did decide that I would spend the day creating a raised garden bed opposite the sauna, because I was thinking about what the view would be there, and I was also thinking about growing some food. I had gone to the local farmers market. This was the beginning of spring, grabbed me some beautiful starters, and I thought that I was going to have time to have a beautiful garden on top of doing major construction all summer. So as you see here, I had some happy frog, some garden soil, some topsoil, and then what you're looking at right here is actually my standing compost pile. I had been collecting this compost. It's underneath the mulch of those dead ginger leaves. I've been collecting that for about a year. We had had a hurricane the year before. Some banana leaves dropped. I'm like, you know what? I'm not ready to do my backyard yet, but when I am ready, I want to have some good compost. So decided that I would do a combination to create these garden beds. And what I initially did was, some of the sod that I was able to pull, I turned it upside down and I first layered the garden bed with that sod to just kind of create a layer, because soil can get expensive, you guys. And what you see me doing here is adding some garden soil. I'm going to add some topsoil. I'm going to add that happy frog, mix it all together, enrich it with a little nutrients, some earthworm castings. I probably had some bone meal. I can't remember right now. But I added all this into the garden bed, and it's beautiful, but it still needed that element of life, and that's where the rich compost that I had been collecting comes in. I'm telling you, when I pulled those ginger leaves up and those banana leaves up, the worms, the beautiful bugs, the rich colors that were in that soil let me know that whatever I grow in this soil has a good shot at surviving. So what you see me doing here is adding the compost from my standing compost pile into the garden bed. Now, these garden beds weren't made for me to immediately plant into. What I was doing was prepping them as my summer beds. I wanted to give them a couple of months to kind of like settle, right? So I'm prepping this. I'm going to top this with mulch. And then I decided to either repot some of my starters in larger pots, or just sit the starters right on top of the mulch and let them sit there, because I was still studying the sun pattern over my garden, and I wanted to make sure that the plants I was positioning were in the best spot to get sunlight. So I didn't want to make any planting commitments just yet. The only one I did make was that olive tree that you see in the middle of the garden bed, but that's basically how the garden bed ended up looking all through summer, all the way to fall. Those same plants were there. Whatever didn't bolt, I kept. And I have some beautiful brassicas right now. I mean, we're in winter and the garden bed is lush. I haven't enriched it with any nutrients as of yet, but I will just before we get our first freeze next week. And basically, y'all, that's kind of like how you make a raised garden bed based on hugelkultur. Hugelkultur is where you take everything that is produced on the land and you repurpose it back to the land. So if I had tree clippings or tree stumps, that would go at the bottom of the raised garden bed, because the more you can raise the height on it initially, you're using less soil. So what I do recommend is, if you guys are planning a project that's going to include raised garden beds, tap a local farm or a local nursery and see if they offer compost in bulk. Have them deliver it in bulk if they can. It's way cheaper. It's going to be a much better quality soil than the stuff that you're going to get in bags sitting at a big box store. It's going to be cheaper, y'all. It may be more work loading wheelbarrows of soil back and forth from the front of your house to the back, or depending on where you have the soil dropped off, but it is worth it. And especially if you're getting soil sourced from your area, that means that it contains nutrients that are essential to where you are and for the plants that grow where you are. So keep that in mind as well. Now, this episode gets cut a little short because around this time, I decided to take on an opportunity to be a food vendor at Jazz Fest here in New Orleans. And if any of y'all been in New Orleans, you know, ain't nobody got time for construction and food vending. So for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I put the project on pause. And when I got back, I had a treat in store for me, because we have crazy weather here in New Orleans, and this was spring. So putting things on pause meant that we did get some heavy rain within the 1.5, 2 weeks I was on pause, which means I came back to heavy growth. And you will catch that in the next episode. I don't want to take up too much of y'all time. I appreciate you hanging in here, following the build. If you have any questions or gain any value from this video, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor and hit that like button. Even more importantly, leave me a comment in the comment section below. I love seeing y'all questions and comments. It lets me know that I'm not the only one out here struggling in beautifying my own backyard. And if you're really digging the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. I release a new episode of this Built Different vlog series every week. And if you're interested in learning more about how to live a holistic DIY lifestyle, I encourage you to join my Patreon community, where I discuss all aspects of how I live a DIY life, not just construction. Go ahead and hit the link in the description below and head on over to Patreon. Without further ado, I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Hey, Amy, let's see what's growing in the compost heap. Check this out, y'all. Just went to open the compost heap. Look at this! Friggin' mushrooms in the compost heap. I wonder if these are like mushrooms I can eat. It's buku mushrooms too. Look at. Uh-oh, y'all. Don't play with me.